panel. New York Times columnist and MSNBC political analyst Charles Blow, former California Senator Barbara Boxer, and former RNC chairman and MSNBC political analyst Michael Steele. It's great to have all three of you with us. Charles, I'd like to start with you. The suspect's alleged manifesto cited the racist great replacement theory that we have been discussing, that Democrats are trying to replace voters with immigrants. Again, we have to tell everyone this is a conspiracy theory. And yet this has been mainstreamed by major Republican figures in media like Fox's Tucker Carlson, but also by politicians like Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. And now the sad reality, as I mentioned earlier, is that almost 50% of Republican voters believe in it. What does it say that such fringe ideas, such extremist ideas within the Republican Party are now mainstream?
Well, it says that we have a problem. And I think, Ayman, we have to really look at the pattern of vigilantism, racialized vigilantism, and how this theory and others have seeped down into younger and younger people. It was the 21-year-old Dylan Roof who traveled to Charlottesville in 2015 and committed mass murder at Mother Emanuel. It was a 20-year-old James Alex Field who traveled to Charlottesville in 2017. They were chanting, "Jews will not replace us," and he killed Heather Heyer. It was a 21-year-old Patrick Wood Crucius who traveled to El Paso in 2019 and committed mass murder. And now we have an 18-year-old Peyton Grindon who traveled to Buffalo and commits mass murder. And even Grindon credits in his manifesto the Christchurch killing, mass killing in New Zealand, and that shooter was only 28 years old. We have to stop thinking that this racialized vigilantism is a vestige of a passing generation. People keep telling, I hear this all the time, well, those people will die out soon, that the new generation is much more multicultural, they don't believe in this, and we will have a better society after that. Well, what I keep seeing is it is young people who are traveling to commit the mass murders. Young white men traveling to commit these mass shootings. So I have to change my view and say it is not that this new generation will save us from vigilantism. We need to look at them as the source of the racialized vigilantism in this country.
Yeah, you bring up a really important point. I think most people are under the impression that this is an older generation problem, but it does not seem to be that based on the identity of these shooters. Senator, let me ask you about policy here for a moment. The suspect was said to have purchased these guns that he used legally. And you sit in this space where you talk about gun reform, regulating social media, whether or not we need to have any kind of other restrictions on, conspiracy theories and the way that they are promoted in mainstream media. When you talk about all of these total issues, talk to me about the role of policy here, because no single solution would have prevented this particular attack from happening, even if the guns were purchased legally, even if there was some kind of social media regulation, even if there wasn't this mainstreaming of racist conspiracy theories.
I think this thing goes so deep, and Charles talked about it. It's not new. This has been a horrifying weekend. Sometimes when I get lost because of the news, I go back and read some documents. And today I read the Declaration of Independence, and we were promised that equality was what this country was about. We were promised life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you go to a supermarket and you may not come home. If it's in a black neighborhood, if you're an Asian American woman walking on the street, you're going to get jumped and hurt because some idiot blames you for some pandemic. If you go to a synagogue, if you go to kindergarten or a high school, this is deep, and policy is one thing, and Lord knows I worked hard on policy and laws, but this goes deeper, and we have to understand America is in trouble. And what makes it very frightening is that there is one political party that gives a wink and a nod to this racism, to this white supremacy. to the gun violence, to all of it. And we need to just say it. And we need to get people in power who are decent and kind. And I'll tell you what needs to be replaced. The hatred. The hatred has to be replaced with compassion and love, and the division has to be replaced with unity about who we are as a nation.
Michael, we have reporting of another mass shooting today. This time it was at a church in Laguna Woods, California. 1 person dead, 5 people injured. Churches, temples, mosques, spas, grocery stores, movie theaters, concerts. I can't think of anywhere else, schools, universities, I can't think of anywhere else that is safe in this country. I mean, is this our new normal? Do we have to accept this as our new normal reality?
Well, I think it's been our new normal for about 25, 30 years now. I mean, this isn't the first mass shooting that has occurred. I mean, Charles very aptly pointed out just a handful in the last few years. This is where the country is right now. We just had up on the screen, 1/3 of Americans believe that, they're being replaced by immigrants. Where does that come from? It's not just the idiots like Tucker Carlson who stoke it. Just Tucker's fine. He's good in his whiteness. He lives in his little community. He's not going to be touched. But it's easier for him to then talk to his audience in a way that exacerbates their feelings and their concerns about what's happening to them. That's part one. Part two goes to what Senator Boxer just mentioned. The kind of people that we're putting in office are an extension of who we are. And we need to reconcile ourselves as citizens with what that means. You can no longer sit there and go, well, my congressman great, but the other one isn't. Well, no, your congressman's pretty effed up too, to be pretty frank about it, right? They're all in the same soup here. And the reality of it is we need to look as citizens, again, going to what the senator just quoted from the Constitution, our founding documents. If we believe those words still have any value or meaning, then we as citizens have to exercise their truth. And we have to be the example of the truisms that they purport. Otherwise, what Charles has laid out is just the beginning of the cycle of crime and hate and abuse and violence that are going to be perpetrated upon communities of color because white folks are scared and they're angry. And we're not getting at the nub of that in many respects. And this has been a 400-year conversation, not a 40-year or 40-minute conversation.
Panel, please stick with me. We're going to squeeze in a quick break, continue the conversation on the other